I told you I don't want your coupon book!
Happy Planetary Modular Rotation Day! Also, hey Arlo, someone's cutting down your tree in your front yard.
That's alright, I hate trees. But you came back to California for after Christmas. Come in. Oh, Lockstin, I'm so glad you're back. What's it like in Oregon?
Oh, it's crazy! Every single Saturday, everyone dresses up as Waldo, but in flannel. And there's no sandwiches. Everything is kale wraps with weird sauce. I don't even think the people there have heard of a sandwich.
Wow, what a strange and fantastical land Oregon must be. Well, now that you're here, we should do a video. Something really special.
Yes, the biggest collab we've ever done with special effects, animation, motion capture.
Guest stars, maybe some stunts thrown in there. Something to make 2017 really go out with a bang. Or we could just do a top 10 video.
Let's just do that.
It's Arlo and Lockstin's Top 10 Games of 2017. And to start things off, Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle.
You know, I never liked the Rabbids before this. I feel like they really toned them down a lot more, and since they didn't rely as much on pop culture references, they were a lot more enjoyable.
Oh, for sure. This game pleasantly surprised an entire generation of grumpy, jaded gamers. Ubisoft took their zany Rabbid characters in Super Mario Bros. And threw them into a blender with turn-based tactical combat, and the result was a Neapolitan milkshake of fun. The combat offers a lot of freedom of movement, and as such is immensely satisfying. Plus, the ability to explore the overworld adventure style gives it an advantage over a lot of other tactics games.
It's a family-friendly and much more approachable version of XCOM, which is also a game that loads of people enjoy. It's a great gateway into the genre for kids.
Then those Rabbids, they just add so much humor to the game, especially thanks to fantastic animation work. I think the most important thing about Mario and Rabbids, though, isn't that it's a great game. It's that it could be a great series all on its own. A new Nintendo exclusive IP is a very special thing, and I for one would love to see more of these games down the line. Mario plus Rabbids just has such a unique identity both in terms of gameplay and of style, so it would be a crime to stop now. And if you're listening, Nintendo and or Ubisoft, put a demo on the stinking eShop. I guarantee there are about 1 million people out there who are on the fence about the whole thing and who would fall in love with the game in a heartbeat if they just had a chance to try it out.
As for number 9, it's so hard to narrow it down. A Hat in Time, Tales of Berseria, Yakuza, Uncharted Lost Legacy. This year had so many great games. I think I'll leave the rest of those as honorable mentions and bring in Uncharted Lost Legacy as our number 9.
I actually haven't gotten a chance to play that one yet. How is it?
It is a much shorter experience than the rest of the Uncharted games, but I loved its format and I really wish future games would take more inspiration from it. Beyond your typical cinematic third-person cover shooter with a platforming element and occasional puzzles, this game did something new with its game design. Rather than your typically fully linear Uncharted level design, you get small yet still satisfying to explore open worlds. And when you finish the main quest in one part of the open world, you get to open a new openish part of the world. A whole new mini open world to play around in. It's a good balance between an open world and a linear game, so you get the benefits of both.
For number 8, I didn't have a chance to review Steamworld Dig 2 for some unfortunate scheduling reasons. You can blame Samus Returns for that, but that just makes me extra happy to talk about it here. Steamworld Dig 1 had you digging deeper and deeper into the earth, collecting treasure, killing baddies, and upgrading your gear in order to reach new areas. Dig 2 is one of those perfect sequels. Every mechanic has been improved upon. A bunch of stuff has been added. It's longer, it's more interesting, the story is better, everything is better. The process of collecting treasure and using it to make yourself stronger is really rewarding, and by the end you're this hyper-mobile, jumping everywhere, digging maniac. Usually after I finish a game, I'm done with it, at least for a good while, but this was one of those rare experiences where I sat through the credits, then immediately got started on a new playthrough. The draw to do it all again more efficiently is strong, and the core gameplay is just that fun. I highly suggest giving Steamworld Dig 2 a try if you haven't already.
Number 7 is Sonic Mania. The blue blur is back, baby, and I don't mean Arlo after coffee. Sonic Mania is one of those games that is truly a rare gem of a game. It actually manages to live up to its hype, which is something almost unfathomable. People wanted a worthy sequel to the classic Sonic games, and that is exactly what we got with this, and then some. While a lot of the levels were classic levels they brought back, they never just brought them back, they reworked them into the new story. The bosses were mostly all completely different, new themes and mechanics were introduced. These levels managed to be perfectly nostalgic and completely fresh at the same time, a phenomenon I had never felt before. and it manages to keep its retro feel while still utilizing more advanced programming and animation, making the whole game much smoother than the originals, which is a lot better for today's standards. If they had just remade the same game before, it would not have been that great. When you really get down to it, you can tell that Sonic Mania was a pure passion project. They could have gotten away with just remaking the levels and adding a few new ones. They could have left the animations and engine the exact same and it would still have sold fairly well. But instead, they put everything they had into it and created a phenomenon. And just like Sonic tip-tapping his foot, I cannot wait at all for a sequel.
Number 6, sweet Sammy Pajammy, was I happy to get my hands on a quote-unquote new 2D Metroid. 1 already had a remake and Super holds up just fine, but Metroid 2 was the only classic title that I was just not interested in playing. 2 buttons, no map, etc. I know, sorry, I'm a super lame-o. I'd been hoping for a remake on 3DS for years, and in September, my prayers were answered. Many of Samus Returns' modernized control features were introduced in the 2GBA games, as many commenters were very happy to remind me, but for me, none of it has ever felt this good. Samus moves so fluidly, and combat feels great. There might be something of a disappointing lack of overall enemy variety.
And graphical style.
His words, not mine, I love the style, but I still enjoy just how many Metroids there are to hunt down and eliminate, and the handful of bosses are simply excellent. Progression is a little linear, but it manages to not feel that way due to the wealth of secrets and side paths. And while I was originally expecting something short but sweet, the game turned out to be more than twice as long as the original, and even longer for a slowpoke like me. Then the graphics are great, the music is great, the game's just great. Here's hoping for Metroid 5 sometime in the near future, because Samus Returns makes an excellent case for continuing the series.
Number 5 is Sundered. Let's take a Metroidvania game, add some roguelike elements, fully hand-drawn graphics, and with an eldritch horror theme. This game is what I wanted Metroid Samus Returns to be.
Psh, whatever. Go eat some Sundered tomatoes.
It's a little tricky to explain the game design here, but I'll try my best. All of the important rooms, like boss locations, power-up rooms, and bottlenecks that you can only get through with brand new abilities, a la Metroidvania style, are in the same place on the map every time, but the halls and rooms between are randomized each time you die, which is where the rogue elements come in. You can level up your character, Esh, to advance your abilities, but when you play through the game, you can only get half of the abilities. Each new power you get, you can choose to advance through the power of science, rejecting the Elder Gods, or you can upgrade them through the power of the Eldritch Horrors. There are also multiple endings depending on how balanced you are with these powers. The mostly melee combat feels solid, and fighting hordes of monsters really tests your skill. Sundered is right up there now with my favorite Metroidvanias of all time, and I highly, highly recommend it, and hope it does better than it's currently doing.
2017 was obviously a great year for games, and Resident Evil 7 started it off strong. After convincing myself that Capcom was now largely incapable of making a good mainline Resident Evil game after 6, and that the 2 Revelations titles were the best we were ever gonna get, they threw this at us. I was initially apprehensive about the shift to first person, and I sorrowfully wished they would have just dialed down the crazy and made something a little more like 4, but it took about 3 seconds for the new style to click. 7 is nearly everything I love about the modern formula, but with older conventions thrown in, adding up to one of the most finely crafted games I've played in any year. The difficulty level is absolutely perfect. Not so hard that I just want to throw up my hands and quit, but just brutal enough to keep me constantly on the edge of my seat. I mean, the game sets up this tension, and it just never lets go. As I said in my review, during my playthrough, I never turned a single corner in confidence. I was always certain that something was about to pop out and kill me. If you've never played a Resident Evil before, but you're into survival horror, don't let that 7 scare you off. Any and all horror fans should give this game a whirl, and with any luck, Capcom will decide to bring it to the Switch.
As for number 3, this game took me completely by surprise. I had played about halfway through the first Nier and put it down as it didn't quite hold my interest. But when Nier Automata came out, I decided to give it another shot. And it blew me away. To be or not to be, whoever you play as in this game is great fun, because the combat system is a great mixture of button mashing, setting up combos, strategizing, and using each of the characters' abilities to their maximum potential. And the way it seamlessly adds in elements from other genres at times, like side-scrolling action games, top-down shooters, and even bullet hells, to its third-person hack-and-slash genre, is something I've never experienced before, which seems to be a theme with this list. Most of the things on this list so far are things we've never experienced before. 2017 was a great year for games. And all of that's just the gameplay. I could gush for a very long time about the soundtrack, and even longer about its story, rich with depth and symbolism about the nature of man.
Are you sure that's all?
Yes, and I really like the character design of 2B.
Now for number 2. Seeing as we're down to the last 2 now, and there are 2 particular games we have not yet mentioned, I think it's probably pretty obvious which ones they are.
Really though? And the hardest thing is choosing which one goes where.
If you ask me, Breath of the Wild is definitely deserving of its Game of the Year award.
Breath of the Wild certainly is deserving of the number 1 spot. It definitely wins Game of the Year. But personally, just me, I think I enjoyed Mario Odyssey more than Breath of the Wild, but I'm not entirely sure about that. Reflecting on it is so hard because both games were just so good, but for entirely different reasons. But let's go ahead and just start with Mario. Mario Odyssey is the nearly perfect culmination of everything many of us have wanted for years now. A more open and imaginative Mario game, a true sequel to the likes of Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine, and I say, Odyssey really takes the cake on this one. Hands down my favorite Mario game of all time now. I didn't even think that was possible because Galaxy 2 was just absolutely fantastic for me as well.
And with the direction the series was going, I never imagined that anything would end up surpassing Sunshine for me.
And yet here we are, a crisply smooth Mario to control, and with an incredibly fun capture mechanic. Moons are all over the place, easy for beginners to get, and yet plenty few of them are in more difficult places to reach. At this point, I don't think there's much I could even say that hasn't already been said tenfold. Everyone knows how good this game is now, but I think that the one thing that makes this a huge step above the rest is its ease of play for beginners just starting out. Yet, its fulfilling amount of extra moves for the more experienced players. Sure, you can still get most of the moons with just a basic level of skill, but it's a lot more fun to challenge yourself. Jump around, throw your hat, dive at it, bounce it on it, and then throw your hat again and dive again. It's been a long time since I've been able to have fun with my own set of rules in a video game. I'd rarely ever just walk up to a moon and grab it, and I'd never just walk around the long way or go through some sticky maze to get through a place eventually. I'd constantly be trying to outperform myself and do long sets of jumps just to get over canyons faster. And having that movement as an option, I think, says a lot about the game. But more than anything else, it's the creativity involved here. This is what a Mario game should be. I haven't felt this magically about a game in a long time. Just constant bliss. Mario Odyssey is my happy place now. Whenever I'm feeling a bit down, I just pick it up, run around and challenge myself a bit, try to beat some old scores and such. It'd be a shame to go back to old Mario after all this, is basically what this all sums up to. The only negative I have is the motion control aspect. It's not only mostly unwanted, but also entirely unneeded. And yet there are still some optional controls locked behind the motion controls, and that kinda sucks. But that only takes this game from a 100 to a 98, in my opinion. And then you get to add the great music and the sound design and the somewhat more creative story this time around, and that's just a huge bonus.
Odyssey is fantastic, one of my all-time favorites to be sure, but in my mind, it can't hold a candle to Breath of the Wild. This game is just, man, it's just something special. I'm crazy about Zelda. I've been completely hooked on it for nearly 20 years. But this game strips the whole series down to its nuts and bolts and rebuilds it into something magical. The developers carefully picked out every single Zelda-ism that was holding the series back and tossed them all out the window, then brought in stuff I never would have dreamed of seeing in a Zelda game. The world is impossibly massive, yet there's so much to do and find. There are a lot of different aspects of video games that I enjoy, but exploration and discovery are probably at the top of the list, and in this regard, Breath of the Wild is a dream come true. There's something delightful to find around every corner, whether it's a shrine or a Korok or just something weird. Then there's the whole physics system, making the gameplay so much more complex and open-ended. Combat is now deep and challenging versus most 3D Zeldas where you just mash B and spam your spin attack. The art direction is beautiful, the music is atmospheric. Is the game perfect? Far from it. It's nice that there are so many shrines, but its 4 main dungeons are pretty lacking. Collecting monster parts and ingredients is a great idea, though powerful potions are too easy to brew en masse, and beyond upgrading your gear, there's nothing to actually craft as the back of the game suggests. I like the weapon degradation system, though I agree that there should be some way to repair broken weapons or craft new ones. Then the story and the ending are blah. Basically, there are elements that don't quite live up to their potential and offer a tremendous amount of room for improvement. But the stuff it does right is still enough to make it my #1 game of 2017, and it's in the running for my favorite game of all time. It made me feel that special kind of video game magic that I thought I left behind back in my teens. Now I just gotta keep my fingers crossed that Nintendo's working on a timely, asset reusing sequel as they did with Majora's Mask. I mean, take what you've got here, but fix all the issues and build even more on top of it? Are games even allowed to be that good?
They had better be. And I think moving forward, Nintendo really has their work cut out for them. A sequel that improves upon the elements of Breath of the Wild, and also a sequel that improves upon the elements of Mario Odyssey, is definitely the direction they should be taking. It's just the smartest business move. And it might make the following years for Nintendo even better than this one.
Seriously though, what on earth was with 2017? I probably didn't even play half the games I wanted to play, and I've gone entire years in the past without barely wanting to play anything.
Maybe 7s are just a lucky number. I have some videos over on my channel talking about why 1997 and 2007 are also both contenders for the greatest years of gaming of all time, and I think 2017 might actually contend with them. There's something about 7s going on here. It's a conspiracy.
Well, we hope you all enjoyed the list, and Lockstin, thanks for coming on and joining me. Why don't you hit us with that catchphrase before we go?
Thank you for watching, and please remember to never stop using your noggin.
There it is. I wish I had a catchphrase. Anyway, if you've got a top 10 list or a top 5 or a top 3 or whatever, be sure to drop it down in the comments. And here's looking to a great 2018. It's got an awful lot to live up to. Happy orbital, prograde, jalapeno flavored, whatever, everyone.